question for you here. It's going to be our question of the week here, because I know you said you only had an hour, plus we got Kevin Moranz coming up here.
Yes, sir.
So our question of the week, and Justin, think about this, because before we get off the show, I'm going to ask you this question too, and I want your answer.
Okay.
What justifies a team? What would you consider? This question was posed to me by a coach, we'll say a mutual friend of ours, who will go nameless. He's a in the background guy. What justifies a team? Is it a truck with a trailer that has a bunch of bikes in it, and they pay for the guys to get there, and they pay for their bikes, but you're riding for basically nothing? Is it does it have to be a factory effort? What in your mind? I mean, do the riders have to get a salary? Like, what in your mind justifies a team?
You and I have talked about this off the record. I mean, it's no secret. My goal is to have a Moto E factory race team within the next 3 years. My definition of a team is every single person is on payroll, and the team runs at a profit. That's it. That's the long and the short of it, because there is not another professional association where the stars of the TV show, NBA, NBL, soccer, golf, NASCAR, maybe not NASCAR, somebody could poke a hole in that, because you got to bring money to the team to get a ride, to get the motor deal.
Yep.
What other sport do we ask the stars of the TV show to pay to go play? And you and I have talked about this off the record. What irritates me to no end is, and I'm not picking on any team at the top, and I'm not picking at any team in the middle or a team at the bottom. Let's take a team in the middle. What wraps my ass is the truck driver got paid, the mechanic got paid, maybe not Lindsay, but most of the managers are getting paid, and yet the rider gets bonuses only, and that comes from an OEM.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's a definition of a team. Manager, motor builder, truck driver, mechanic, rider, everybody's on a salary. And at the end of the year, the team has done a great job. And it's kind of funny you bring this up in the way that you did that, Trav. Tonight on Cooksy and the Coach, you're going to love this. We got Watson coming on tonight.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, shit.
Fucking perfect.
Okay.
Fuck.
Love
So,
that guy.
What makes your question so poignant is when you go back to Hart and Huntington and on Whiskey Throttle, both Watson and Kerry himself have come on and said, hey, look, we had Dodge, we had the casino, we had all the sponsorship we needed to retain the talents of the Ken Roxon. And then slowly, and I'll even go so far as to say systematically, the promoters, Supercross and Motocross, slowly took away what Watson had built in the area of activation. So what happens to the team 2 years later? It evaporates. So what I have a problem with is you have promoters that say they're all about trying to help the sport grow, and in their next breath are finding every way to steal money from the teams, steal money from promoter against promoter. Nobody works together.
No.
And again, I'm not everybody gets a trophy. I mean, I'm probably one of the most, I love economics. May the best man win. You got the best product. Let's do it, right?
Yep.
But to your point, a team has to be profitable, because that's what's called a business, unless you're the government. Okay. You have to understand that if there's not profit, you can't pay your bill on thanks.
Yep.
We don't have a machine in the back where we can print money the way our government and their asinine mindset thinks they can, right? It's called inflation.
Yep.
So the idea here is a team is where everybody gets paid. Everybody, especially the team owners, are able to make money at the end of the year, instead of this bullshit that I'm a team owner and I need a tax deduction, so I'm going to go ahead and start a team so I can run it at a loss. What other business, take it out of motocross, I was just pulling out of the back of my head, what automobile dealership says, you know what's a great idea? I'm going to invest $100 million in automobiles and then lose money all year. That's a good idea.
Yep.
Unless it's a front for drug money. I don't know why you would even try to do that.
Formula One.
Yeah, there you go.
Oil moguls.
Yeah.
And then this is you bring up Formula One, right? Look at the salaries that these drivers are making. And I don't know if you guys, I know you're both very busy. I don't expect you to, but if you listen to Cooksing the Coach last week, and what was it that we were talking about? Because I got kicked in the balls by this guy. He DM'd me double barrels. He's like, "You're a fucking idiot, man. You don't know what you're talking about." Because I was comparing PGA golf to motocross. He's like, "There's a golf course on every corner. You're a fucking moron." And I said, "All right, point well taken, but show me the closest Formula One racetrack by your house. Show me the closest neighbor that has a Formula One race car in his garage."
There's a reason why there's so many. There's only so many in the world.
Say that again, Trav, or say that again, Justin.
If you're talking about like the Formula One, like tracks that are like how many of there actually are, like there's a reason why there's only so many in the world.
Well, what this guy was saying is the reason why golf is able to pay at Augusta, I don't even know, $18 million prize purse for just Augusta, one event, right? Make the cut, make $55,000.
Yep.
He's like, well, that's because there's so many golf courses. It's economies of scale. I'm not an idiot. I love economics, right? I get it. Where your example is invalidated is there's not a lot of Formula One tracks. There's not a lot of people that buy Mercedes, Ferraris, and all those others. But yet you've got Formula One race teams that are paying their drivers tens of millions of dollars. And I can count on one hand how many guys that are making over $1 million a year base salary from an OEM. So if you're gonna, my point was when you're looking at golf, whether it's through a players union or whatever, their model is if we want to make the players millionaires, we have to create a series that allows us to charge sponsorship revenue, whether it's through entertaining, wining and dining, media exposure, brand awareness, recognition. NASCAR did it. I don't know about you, but I don't own a NASCAR track. I don't even own a NASCAR. But yet, how many cars were on the grid? 40?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't see 40 factory riders.
Private ownership in the teams
we were just talking about this last week with Johnny. Yeah.
Yep.
And then what's the missing link? A piece of the TV revenue goes back to teams and filters down to the drivers.
That's a big problem.
I mean, shit.
But hey, wait. Because we have all the keyboard dickheads. What do they say? "Oh, Rob, you're about redistribution of wealth." You obviously don't know me. There is nothing I'm more vehemently against than redistribution of wealth. What I'm saying is make a model that works for everybody, because last time I checked, Formula One is growing in the United States thanks to the Netflix series.
Mm-hmm.
Because why? We now have 7 or 8 people that are household names in Formula One, of which I've never even been to one.
I was watching Formula One today.
Yeah, don't tell me I got to watch
it.
it.
There you go.
Oh,
and we don't.
Exciting.
Oh yeah, I've heard. And we don't even have
exciting.
one fucking American on that grid.
No,
that's the crazy thing. Is most of the time, let's be honest, Americans when they watch sports, whether it be motorsports or stick and ball, they want to do it because hey, an American, this and that. Formula One doesn't have one damn American on in that circuit.
Nope.
And what does the narrative? How does the narrative get manipulated by those that are trying to protect those that are manipulating the system? This is motocross. You're stupid. Everybody just wants to race moto. Everybody knows that nobody's going to make money. You get into it for the love of racing. Put the crack pipe down and step away from the table. If you continue to adhere to that asinine mindset, we're going to never see the sport grow. I'm not a NASCAR fan, but 15 years ago when my now 22-year-old son was little, we would sit and watch NASCAR. He knew the drivers. I'm not a NASCAR fan. He was. Why? It was on TV and they made the drivers tangible. You knew who they were. And yet people go, well, moto is always just going to be a poor man's sport. It's these guys do it for the love of racing.
Obviously, they've never done a dirt bike.
You have drank the Coca-Cola syrup. You've listened to the politicians that say this is just the way the sport is. And yet we've got guys that their entire sport is on the backbone of running moonshine. And we can't emulate that?
Yep.
I'm not saying run moonshine. I'm just saying it wasn't, because you get the people that say, well, Formula One is all the very, very tip of the iceberg wealthy people. You're right. But that didn't just fall off of a turnip truck.
I mean, Silverstone over 2 months ago had 356,000 fans in attendance for that race, making it the most attended race of anything ever. 356,000 people packed into the Silverstone Raceway, and luckily Lewis Hamilton won. But the fact is 356,000 people from across the world went to that race.
Wild.
I can't even fathom being in a place with 356,000 people.
And we've been to destinations.
Yeah, I mean
multiple times.
most thing I've ever been around is 90,000 people, maybe 100.
Yeah,
356. That's just absolutely stupid to me.
Yep. So,
but think about it. You don't just create an event and almost 500,000 people show up, right?
Oh,
yeah.
You create a story. You create personalities. Personalities create sponsors. Sponsors create more teams. More teams create better television. Better television package means, hey, and again, I'm not using this in a redistribution, but just the filtering, not even the filtering, just the model, because the promoters, PGA, understand without these storylines, people don't watch, and without ratings, there is no run. Again, why do we try to complicate the simplistic? You have to reverse engineer this. Until a PGA player becomes a story, there's nothing to market.
Mm-hmm.
What is our model? We have a series and we shit on the stories.
Yep. So,
it's so simple to fix.
Yep.
So simple to fix. That's the definition of a team, is that everybody that puts sweat equity in, anybody that's listening to this, can you imagine going to your job tomorrow and your boss says, hey, look, thanks for showing up. Appreciate it. Good luck paying your bills.
I'm walking out the door.
Yep, exactly. So,
and yet, because we supposedly love the sport, we expect the guys just to suck it up, put up with it. It's all good.
So,
and if you have a voice of discontent, then for somehow, again, this is the great politician spin. If you have a voice of discontent, then somehow you're made out to be the bad guy, that you're trying to be. I don't know. I've heard so many different descriptions.
Question for you here. It's our question of the night that we're doing this week.
Okay.
What justifies a team? Is it a truck and a trailer that goes to the races, that gets your bike there? Is it they give you bikes, they get you to the races, all that stuff, but you're in charge of making your money after that? Is it you got to get a salary? Like what justifies / defines a team in the industry?
This is your opinion.
In your opinion.
Team? Like team at all or factory team?
No, like team at all, period. Because there's a lot of teams in the pits
Has
that
setup, I guess.
that they call themselves
like
teams.
the Chaparral Honda team,
for example. And we all know that there's not a lot going on there as far as payments and stuff like that, and the money is a big struggle, and there's lots of things in the background that aren't going well. Obviously that team's going away, so whatever. So
where?
The FXR Chaparral team.
Yeah.
So
I think what qualifies you as a team is just like, honestly, like you just said, truck, trailer, and a tent, pretty much. You know what I mean? As long as you got a couple riders, or even if you just present yourself as a team.
Okay.
It just depends on how professional you are about it, I guess.
What about like paying riders? Like, do they need to pay a salary to the riders?
Do you think unless you get bonuses?
Yeah.
Do you think like they should be paying to get on
I mean,
there?
yeah, it depends if you're talking about a factory team or a privateer style team, because I mean, it's not like everybody on TPJ is guaranteed a payment or a salary or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's just
Yep.
transportation and stuff like that, which is big for a lot of privateers and everything. So like, yeah, I don't think you're not required to have any of that stuff if you just want to be a team. I mean, there's plenty of teams out there that kids pay for their rides and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're just getting everybody's info on what they,
because we asked Coach the same thing.
Yeah, this question was posed to me by a unnamed friend, we'll call it, as to what justifies a team, because he thinks it's fairly ridiculous that there's kids paying for their rides, there's dads paying for bikes. There's teams not running race gas. There's these teams where, hell, the truck driver is getting paid $100,000 a year and the riders aren't getting paid anything.
Or someone supposed to get money, didn't get money.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So he's
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that in our industry.
yeah, well, he's upset about that, and we'd all obviously like to see that change. Where even if you're on a low end team, you're getting a salary, whether it's $50K a year, but at least you're getting something for going out and risking your life.
Yeah, that'd be nice, but we're not all that lucky.
Well, we're working on it.
We're working towards change.
Well,
Hashtag change. Hashtag change the sport. Wow, that beach wind is gnarly.
Yeah, man. So my definition of a team is kind of a mix of what Kev and Coach said. You have a team, you have a truck, you have a rig, you have bikes, whether it be 250, 450, and let me know whenever you decide to call him. So
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. I just sent him a text.
you have a
That's
truck
cool.
driver, you have mechanics. You don't need to have technicians there. I mean, you work with your sponsors through that. But you, at the beginning of each season, Supercross, or before that, I should say, you get your sponsors on board, and they are, hey, they're going to be on the gear, they're going to be on the bike. We're going to present you with when we go to races, like, hey, you're on our sponsor list. Obviously, some guys, pay more money to be certain up higher, kind of like everything. And everybody gets paid, Yeah, you get bonuses for, hey, you get a fifth in a main, or, you get a fifth in a moto, a win, you do X amount in points, but you have a base salary to everybody. The truck drivers, sure as shit, don't get paid 6 figures a year.
It's a going rate for truck driver.
I understand that, but if it comes down to that, then we're gonna find more than just one person, so it's not all on them. We're gonna find guys that when they get into this, they realize, hey, this is a set schedule. This is not going to be easy. Which, by the way, I'm also getting sick and tired of everybody saying that factory mechanics work 90 hours a week. It's absolute bullshit. They don't work 90 hours a week. Coming from a mechanic, they work their asses off, so even if they're only putting in 45 hours, those 45 hours fucking suck. But they're not working 90 hours. Like, let's stop acting like these mechanics are fucking living.
Bro, I found you a job, by the way.
Really?
Craig's looking for a mechanic.
Christian Craig?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But you got to move to Florida.
I can move to Florida. Anyways. So let's stop acting like they're just living at the race shops. Like, they get paid good money. Most of them do. They get paid good. But anyways, guys get paid. They have their bonus money.
Yeah.
And they can have their own sponsors. You could have your sponsors within it. You can have deals that are structured a certain way.
Yep.
But the biggest thing is that these guys get paid at the end of the season. They get their bonus money for whatever, but they don't get a bonus for everything. Like, if you finish 20th in a moto, you don't get a bonus for that.
Yeah.
You just get paid your salary. But if you finish 10th, and it's the way you structure your deal, like I said, your mechanics get paid. Your practice mechanic, if you have one, that's on you. The team doesn't supply the practice mechanic. As we know, a lot of these guys have practice mechanics.
Yep.
And the biggest thing is about getting the sponsors of the team, their name out there. Nobody gets fucked over in the process. We don't start, hey, we're going to have this, and then in the middle of the season, we're going to, our deal's canceled because so-and-so or whatever reason. But the biggest thing is kind of like what Coach said that people are accusing him of, the redistribution of wealth. It's not that with me. It's just you guys need to get paid for your time. Everybody, and we've talked about this before off camera, everybody's time is worth something. It doesn't matter what you're doing. That's the one thing that I will say is everybody, no matter where you are, whether you're in this country, a third world, everybody's time is worth something. Mm-hmm. So everybody gets paid. Like, I don't like the fact that people think that, that's because, we're giving everybody. No, everybody deserves to get paid for their time. And its biggest thing is about the sponsors. Making sure the sponsors of your team getting their name out there like they're promised, because there's been a lot of teams in the past that have started off with this, and then halfway through the season you see, sponsors change, or they start moving down the list of when, and you make sure your guys, when they're doing media, that they are thanking said sponsors, because if it's not for those sponsors, that team doesn't exist. And that's my biggest thing and it's not really like that's what I'm saying is groundbreaking, because there's a lot of teams that are out there that still run by that program. But my biggest thing is making sure the sponsors are happy, everybody's getting paid, and also everybody realizes what they're signing up
When you
for.
talk about mentioning the sponsors, are you talking about like in the interviews like they do?
Or when you're doing media, if you're doing an interview like with Kevin, like when you did an interview with Anton, you're mentioning, you don't have to mention every the Sprocket sponsor unless the Sprocket sponsor is one of the biggest. You don't have to mention the foot, you just make sure that,
because I don't agree with that, and because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're making sure the presenting
if they say that shit, people zone out anyway.
Yeah, I'm just making sure my presenting sponsors, the ones that are really putting the money and making whether a dealership is giving us bikes for the season or whatever.
Yeah.
Making sure their name is getting said. I'm not saying you got to list all 22 sponsors on there.
Like
just
the Star Yamaha guys?
Yeah, that's absolutely stupid to me. Like the fact I understand Toyota of Escondido is a big sponsor for a lot of guys.
Yeah.
But the fact that like a lot of these guys sponsor them or say it, it's like, dude, you're just getting a free truck. Like that has nothing to do with your team.
Yeah.
So yeah. And like I said, the biggest thing is making sure everybody realizes what they're getting themselves into.
Yep.
Because there's also been a lot of teams, not so much lately, but there's were teams like back in the mid-2000s where guys didn't realize how hard it was, and they just quit halfway into the season.
Yep.
They just quit because they couldn't handle it. The guys got to know this is going to be great, and this is also going to suck.
Yep.
And they just make sure when you sit down and you talk to your, like I said, your mechanics, your drivers, your whoever is going to be in your team manager, your trainer, whatever, this is what the season's going to look like, and it's going to have its ups, and it's going to have a lot of downs. You guys just need to know. But you are also going to get paid at the end of the season.
Yeah.
You're not going to be fucking, hey, you're going to have to take me to court because you didn't get paid.
Blake Baggett.
Yeah, Blake Baggett or said mechanics of certain teams or
Yeah.
Matt Bonney.
Yep.
So that's my thing is, like I said, I know it's not groundbreaking, and I know maybe that's not the answer you're looking for, but it's kind of a little bit of both. But I've just always been, maybe because of how long I've been in this industry and knowing what it's like to sponsor guys through me and my dad and my shop that we had, sponsoring isn't always what it seems to be with certain people because, yes, riders can be difficult. But you need the riders to sit down and realize is that if it wasn't for the sponsors of said team, you wouldn't be on said team. But I'm also not going to make people pay to be on my team.
Yeah.
Like, we're not doing that. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like, if your results are good enough, then you're going to get a shot. Like, for instance, Kevin, Scott Meshy, Grant Harlan. Like, you're not paying to be on my team. Like, if I think you're good enough, you're going to be on the team if you want to be, and you're going to get paid for your services. You're not just, hey, we're taking your bike to the track, which TPJ does that, and that is amazing, but everybody knows the way Teddy Sr. does it, like how that works, and those guys are grateful for it. But if you go to said team that we just talked about or JGR with Justin, like, we're not doing that. We're not making you pay to be on my team. If I want you to be out there representing my team, you're getting paid for your time. And that's my biggest thing is just make sure everybody knows what they're doing. They're getting paid for their time, but also we're going to address how this season is going to go because it's not going to be easy.
Yep.
And I know, like I said, I've said it already 3 times. I know that's not a groundbreaking answer, but I just feel like a lot of that stuff gets lost, that people just, because they've accepted it, oh, so-and-so needs to be paid on the team. No, I'm not making you pay to be on my team, which I also think that whole thing is fucking stupid. Like, because then there's a lot of people that just have more money than said other people that deserve to be on the team, and they're only on there because daddy paid for it. Like, I think that's absolute ridiculous too.
Yeah, but that's something that happens in all, like, motorsports, basically.
I understand that. And Formula One is a big thing. It's just, I have an issue. Like, if it was up to me, I understand if you have the money and money makes the thing go around, but if I take, and like I said, I'm not going to go into naming names because we're not going to cause a shitstorm there. But if said person, because you have more money, but you're getting 15th in a moto and you're not doing anything else for me, but said other person doesn't have enough money, but they're getting 7th in motos or mains or battling for top 5s, I don't give a shit how much money your dad has. Because first off, that's the only thing you're bringing to the table. I understand that, and that is a big part of it. But outside of that, you're not doing anything for my team because first off, you're not running up front. So you're not getting my sponsors out there. And second, you're never going to be seen. So, yeah, like with social media shit. But if said person gets 7th and they have a social media presence, but they don't have enough money, they're going to see more of said person than they're going to see of you.
Yeah.
So, like, what is the point of that? Because let's be real, at the end of the season, that money's going away. Because usually those are only 1-year deals.
Yep.
So, that's what frustrates me. And if I ever had a team, that's pretty much how it'd be structured. You get paid for your time. We're going to address how things are going to go, and you make sure you're fucking thanking our presenting sponsors.
Yep.
And that's it. I mean, I know that seems simple, but I think that's all it needs to really be. I know that there's a lot of other stuff that you could get into with how that goes, but, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think that that's honestly the way every team should be structured.
Okay. Fair enough. I like the answer.
All right.
That's cool.
That's why I think that it'd be cool if we owned a team one day.
Well, we could own a team.
We could.
It'd be interesting.
There's definitely guys that'd be right off the top of my head that I could think of right now.
Well, let's put it this way. the riders are secondary in my
Yes,
mind
of
here
course.
about this stuff, as far as like
There's other stuff.
how much I would be battling with promoters all
Yeah.
fucking year. Like I would be fighting with people.
Well, that's
Probably fist fighting Davey Coombs in the parking lot.
Well,
to be honest with
that's why there's things that we know that are coming down the pipeline that maybe one day, if we ever do own a team, we won't have to do that.
Yeah, I hope so. So, my opinion, what justifies a team, you need to have a truck driver with a truck. Okay. Now it doesn't even have to be a semi. Okay. What's it called?
Concept haulers.
No, what's the Kawasaki team there that A ran them ride for?
Oh, the SGB.
The SGB Racing. That in my mind is good enough. Okay. You have a truck, you have a trailer, you have bikes.
Yeah.
The guys get at least one race bike, one practice bike from you.
Which is all you really need, let's be honest.
Everyone gets a salary.
Yep.
We pay for a mechanic for you. Okay. Every person who rides for the team has a mechanic. So you
Yep.
have a truck driver, you have a manager, you have your riders, however many of those are, however many you can afford.
Yep.
They each get 2 bikes. Okay. We have, say, a third bike just to spare.
Basically
in
like
case
a parts
something-
bike.
in case something
Yeah.
goes crazy. Okay.
Which most teams
And we
do.
make sure we have parts
Yep.
to keep the bikes running
Yep.
at proper ways. We pay for a mechanic, and wherever we're based out of, so say we're based out of Florida,
Yep.
well, then you have to live in Florida. If you want to live in California and you out there, then you have to pay for your own practice mechanic. We're not paying for that.
Yep.
That's a you thing.
Which I think baffles my mind that more teams don't do what Star's doing right now, but
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there.
I believe that's a fair thing. Like, look, we'll pay for a mechanic, and the mechanic will do your practice bike also,
Yep.
but you're going to have to be where the team is.
Yeah, we're not doing this whole
Yeah.
back and forth
No.
bullshit.
No.
Yep.
So that way, and every rider gets a base salary.
Yep.
And what that base salary is, that's debatable.
Well, it also depends on your presenting sponsors. Like
yes.
how much money do they want to kick in?
Yes, because like I said, I know you brought up the argument about the truck drivers getting 6 figures. Well, that's a going rate for a truck driver. So let's face it, if they're not completely in love with Moto or whatever,
Yeah.
why are they going to come to Moto and drive a truck all year for $55,000 when they can go drive a truck
Yeah.
in a local region, be home all the time,
Yeah.
and all they got to do is back up to a door, get loaded, and back up to a door to get unloaded for $100,000 a year type deal,
Yep.
So it's like you have to pay them the prevailing wage
Yeah.
that's going for truck drivers. Like that's the sad thing about it, and maybe they're getting paid a lot more than your riders, but that's the way this kind of stuff has
Yep.
to go until we build the sport more where the riders are getting. Now, with that being said, I still feel like the top 20 dudes who are qualifying for main events in
Yep.
Supercross, the top 20 finishers who are getting points in outdoor races, those dudes should all be making mid 6 figures or better.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it, one Formula One driver's salary could pay for...
No, Nikita Mazepin's salary could pay the whole 450 top 20 main.
Yeah,
in Supercross.
100%.
And that's including all the don't get it twisted. That's including all the factory dudes.
Over
Eli,
$1 million,
Kenny, Dylan,
could pay all top 20 in a main event over $1 million a
What
year.
he makes at the end of the year, it could pay everyone. Yeah.
Yep,
Like,
100%.
don't get that twisted. The worst dude in the F1 grid is making more money than all of those fucking people.
Which, before we do our show on how to fix the sport, I want to dive into like MotoGP. I want to dive into Formula One. I want to dive into some of the
Yeah, because MotoGP dudes, holy shit,
economics
they get paid a lot
of
of money.
NASCAR. Yeah, but so what I'm interested in is we all know like Formula One and MotoGP class. Okay, those guys get paid a shit ton.
Yep.
What about
Like Marquez.
Moto 2, F2, Moto 3, F3? What are those guys making? Are they
The
making,
DTM series, there's a lot of...
are they making money? Are they not making money? And then again, like I said, I want to dive into the economics of a lot of this so that
Yep.
that way when we do this show, I have an idea as to where I think we should go with it.
Yeah, because I think the biggest thing is what people don't... I guess it goes back to what Coach was saying is people are just accepting it.
Yeah.
We have to get over this whole thing of accepting, well, oh, they just get a ride, so that should be good enough for them. We'll know, like, they're happy for the ride, but the thing is they've been working their asses off their entire life to get that ride, but also to get paid for said ride.
Yeah.
Like, fucking gummy bears and dreams don't make the world go round. So just because they're getting that ride, if they're not getting paid for it, okay, they're getting to go do what they want to do professionally, but they also have to pay for whether maybe they don't have to pay for a mortgage because maybe they still live with their parents, depending on, but they got to pay for, cars, they got to pay for gas, they got to pay for food, they got to pay for train. Like, they still got to pay to live just
Yeah.
because they get to go do their job professionally. That's all set up for them. That's like Coach said, that's like going into your work tomorrow and your boss saying, well, thank you for coming to work today, but I don't know how you're going to pay your bills.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get over this thought that just because these dudes get shots on these teams and that's good enough for them, like that's the main wrong thing with our sport. We shouldn't be just happy with just enough. Like, there's no other sport in the world. There's no other thing in the world where that's like, oh, hey, you get to go do your job for a living, which you really, really love, but guess what? You're not going to make any money off of it. Like, you would doesn't matter how much you love your job, you're never going to go do that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what just is, and we'll talk about this when we do the Super Show, but that's been the most frustrating things about it since I've been in this sport that I love so much is people think, oh, you go get to do it for a living, get to ride dirt bikes, but you're not going to get paid for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Why the hell did I work so hard my entire life to get to said point just not to get paid for it? Like, you kind of have to, like, there is life after motocross. Like, the motocross career span is only a good 10 years if you're lucky. Sometimes it's 5. So what are you going to do after you're done racing?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any money left, so I'm going to go work at wherever.
Yeah. Like I said, I want to dive into the economics of stuff a little bit more. I want to try to figure out some numbers as far as, like, what a supercross race makes, how, you know, because, like, payouts are a big thing, too. I mean, in my mind, there's no reason, like I said, that the top 20 dudes, the main event guys for most weekends, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we have to have 100 riders that make $1 million a year, okay?
No.
We can still have dudes that show up in their pickup truck and want to try to qualify for a race. That's fine. NASCAR has it all the time. There's dudes that show up with one car in a fucking truck, like, not a big race team, and try to qualify for these races. That's fine, too. But we should have a wide range of dudes.
The 22nd dude in a 450 Supercross main should still get paid good money instead of just, oh, hey, you showed up, so thank you.
The 40th guy at a Supercross should still be making $100,000 a year.
No, what I'm saying is like even for that main event, like the 22nd dude who got 22nd that night, he should still get paid decent money instead of high fives and
mid six figures.
Yeah, like 100. Like, it's fucking stupid. Like,
to be a pro athlete,
you're still the
level.
best in the world.
Yep.
And even the 40th place dude at a national should still make better than.
Now, don't get me wrong. That should also change the way that these 22nd place guys ride in that main event. I should not see you rolling the track. You should be.
But knowing the number that we know about said person, what they made at Unadilla, and we're not going to go in, like, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you finished top 20 in one of the gnarliest tracks in the world, and you didn't even make four digits.
Yep.
Like, that's absolutely ludicrous to me.
Yep.
If you were 18th, for perfect, let's take Formula One out of MotoGP. I don't know much about MotoGP. I know about Valentino Rossi, I know about Marc Marquez, and I know about Maverick Vinal. But if you finish 18th at a MotoGP, you're certainly not making $400.
Yeah.
And I understand it's MotoGP to promote motocross.
The 20th place guy in Formula One is a multimillionaire.
Yes, exactly. His shoes cost more than $400.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, it's very frustrating.
All right. We got another privateer hero here.
I don't want to be left out in the dark.
That leads into our question of the week here that we're doing.
Oh, we're just asking everybody this.
We're asking everybody.
Okay.
So what in your opinion justifies a team? So I was having a conversation this week with a friend, and it basically was he's upset that we have these, we'll call them quote unquote teams, where the truck driver is getting $100,000 plus a year. And, well, I don't think that's the case
because Michael Lindsay
was driving it. But anyway, these truck drivers are getting $100K a year, and the guys are paying to ride for the team, and there's no salaries, and they're not running race gas, and all this shit like that. So what, in your opinion, justifies a team?
Oof. Well, honestly, that's actually a really good question. I guess the way that I personally see teams, listen, you could have two dudes rolling in a Sprinter van that's wrapped, and you could call that a team. Truthfully, you could.
Yeah.
Is it a factory team? Absolutely not. But a team is what you make it. However, there's obviously different levels, I guess you could say, like your tiers, I guess you could say. And while there's no exact order, I guess no exact line to say this is this tier team, aside from obviously you have your factory teams, and we all know who they are.
Yep.
And then you have your teams that are either manufacturer recognized or manufacturer supported. Like Moto Concepts for a while, when Brayton was riding for them, I know a couple years ago, when Brayton started to do really well on Moto Concepts, Honda basically said, we're basically going to give you a couple parts to help you guys out. What do you want? And the first thing out of his mouth was your brake systems.
Yep.
So, you have your teams just under your factory teams that are, your guys are usually, I say the word usually here because I know there's an exception sometimes, getting paid at least decently, and they have a decent setup, usually a rig, and, they're getting some support from the factories. And then honestly, I mean, you have teams like Rocky Mountain that are, pretty much one of those teams. And I mean, I don't understand the whole thing. The problem is that I haven't read into it too much about whatever. I heard there was like comments out there about whatever with McElrath and being paid or whatever or something. I don't even know.
I might have put up one of those comments.
Hey, listen, I actually don't know. I mean, like I said, it's been a while since I've talked to him, and I would never ask that kind of question because that's.
I'll explain it to you when we're off the phone.
All right.
I've beat that horse enough here on the show. I'll explain it to you I'll explain it to you later.
All right. That's fair. Yeah. So I mean, you have stuff like that, but you have factory supported or factory at least recognized teams like like Rocky Mountain or Moto Concepts, or I believe that even AJE was getting some level of recognition from Gas. I can't say that 100% with confidence, but you have teams like that, and then you have other teams, like SGB or PRMX that are, I would say, a little more like a privateer. That would be like a true privateer team where they're pulling together. They're pulling together resources. They're pulling together efforts. Most times, I can't imagine that those guys are getting paid. Like I said, I mean, I don't know. Even in my own small experiences, that's not what I've come to understand. It's more of a thing of kind of making it easier on the rider, and they usually get a race bike. It just depends on the rider, depends on the team, depends on how much, and my own experience, it was, well, what can you bring to the team? What sponsors can you bring to the team? What value can you bring to the team?
Mm-hmm.
Is it tires? Is it graphics? Is it plastics? Is it a gas card? What is that?
Yep,
and that's what the privateer teams, truthfully, more times than not, what I have seen, and again, this is just my perspective and what I have seen, in my 18, 19 years of being around the sport, is that guys that will bring money or at least bring value will get spots and will be a part of those privateer teams. And, that's that. But sometimes the bikes aren't all they are, hooked up to be, or, the payment of riders isn't what it's hooked up to be. And sometimes promises fall short. It's kind of hard to say exactly what constitutes a team, but you have all types of teams out there. It just depends on, what your resources are and what you would consider that to be. I mean, to be honest, man, I bring more value to myself. I bring more value to the people that support me by doing my own effort, truthfully.
Yes.
Yep.
And to be honest, I think that that's a big thing. That's something that I believe in. And that's something that, my mom has instilled, is to give back. And that's something that's really been important to me. And even through my schooling and, just general understanding of business, is that realistically racing is like a business. And while it's a losing proposition for most, there has to be some type of give back. And so the folks that support me, I do whatever I can to give back to them, and I stay loyal, and I give back. I try to create value for them because that's how it should be. I'm not going to be the guy that's just going to jump ship just because.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the horror stories that I've heard about some of the teams that are out there, the smaller teams, people falling short on expectations for what they're supposed to get for a bike, the pay, there's a whole lot of talk, and sometimes the follow through is weak. And to be honest, man, I'm happy with the bikes that I'm on. I've created a really awesome program as far as my bike setup, and it'll continue to get better. I work with amazing people. I mean, truthfully, I don't really think that there's people that I work with that I'm not stoked to be not to be working with. So, for guys out there, I mean, I guess if you want to call it a team, I mean, realistically, if you got a couple guys, transporting stuff, and maybe if you're getting a race bike, then yeah, I mean, I guess that's a team. I mean, it's kind of hard to constitute. It depends on what level of support you're looking at.
Yeah. So I would ask you though. I mean, what do you think? What would you say that constitutes a team? So me and Justin were just talking about this, giving our answers, and so my thing is that for me to justify you as a team, you need a truck, even if it's as simple as like the SGB deal, where it's a fifth wheel trailer or whatever.
Race trailer.
Yep. Team manager, truck driver, however many riders you want to have. Each rider gets a mechanic paid for by the team. Now, if you say your team's based in California and you want to live in Florida, well, then you got to supply your own practice mechanic, because we're not flying the mechanic back and forth. Mechanic's going to stay at the shop, at the home base, wherever that's at, okay? Or vice versa, whatever, wherever, North Carolina, whatever. Doesn't matter. But we'll supply truck driver to get you to the races, mechanic for you, team manager to hold everything together, race bike, practice bike, parts, and some sort of salary. On top of, obviously, we'll get you to and from the races, per diem type shit. Because in my mind, you guys are a professional sport. So, in my opinion, the top 40 dudes in both classes for indoors and out should all be that way. It should all be, even if say you're the 40th place dude, whatever, your salary should still be, even if it's small, say 30 to 50K a year.
Still should be making money.
You still should be making some sort of money. Now, if you want to spend that 30K on a trainer, on a practice mechanic, whatever, that's your prerogative. Yep. You can do that. But we're going to give you a base salary. We're going to give you some bonus options. We're going to get you to and from the races, and we're going to make sure you can practice. Those are what we're going to do for you. The rest of it is on you. And now, granted, that could go from $30,000 for the 40th place guy to the top guy, like say a Ken Roxon or Eli Tomac. You could be making $5 million a year. But that, in my mind, for at least the top 40 is what it should be. And then outside of the top 40 guys, okay, or not even, let's say, top 40, because there's always these sleeper guys out there, right? But you can still show up in your pickup truck with your bike and try to qualify, whatever. Because I was equating it to NASCAR, because we've been talking a lot tonight. We've been asking everyone this question, and we've been talking a lot about Formula One, NASCAR, MotoGP, PGA, that kind of stuff, okay? So even at NASCAR, okay, you have 40 dudes on the grid. And even the 40th place guy in a NASCAR race is still doing okay-ish, we'll say. And there's still dudes that show up to NASCAR races in a fifth wheel trailer, pulling it with their Silverado 1-ton truck, and they have one car, one motor, whatever, and they're going out there and trying to qualify for these NASCAR races. So again, I don't want to eliminate the grassroots level of it, where like, hey, I can get my pro card, I can get my brand new 450 off the showroom floor, put my suspension on it, put my graphics on it, go to the race and try to qualify. I don't want to kill that grassroots part of it. What I want to do is I want to make sure that there's at least 40 dudes to fill the gates, whether it be for a night show for Supercross or for a outdoor moto. I want to make sure there's 40 dudes there that are making money doing this. And then beyond that, whoever's beyond that, fine, no problem. Like, if that's your life choice you want to make to privateer this up and drive to the races and that kind of stuff, that's fine. But in my mind, between the promoters, the manufacturers that are going on right now, the smaller teams, there should be a cohesive working together to figure out how do we draw in the most money so that we can make something like this happen so that we don't have empty gates.
That's fair.
No,
and I think truthfully what you're talking about as far as those requirements, like to be considered a team,
yep.
Realistically, that would be that would truthfully be like a Rocky Mountain, an AJE, a Moto Concepts.
Yeah, and that my mind is bare minimum. If you get any of these teams where you're paying, you're not getting bikes, you got to buy your own bikes, you got to pay to get yourself to the race, any of that shit, that's not a team. That's a group of dudes that have a tent at a race. Like, I mean, I do the same thing. I paid to go to my local race at Redbud yesterday so I could go race. I'm not a fucking team, okay? Like, I got a truck, I got a trailer, I got a bike, like, whatever. I'm not a fucking team, all right? I had to pay money to go there to do that. It's a hobby for me. I'm a hobby team.
That's fair. Yeah, and honestly, man, I mean, it's obviously in the perfect world, if everybody's working together, then, you know, obviously there's a bit of value creation that can be done, and there can be a bit more, I guess, I wouldn't say redistributing of money, but I mean, to be honest, there should be a little bit of a change. But yeah, no, I think that you're pretty solid, at least. You know, I think, you know, what's interesting, and I don't know if you know about this, but I know that for many, many years that there was programs with like Pro Circuit, obviously for the 250 guys. So, you know, in Supercross and in outdoors, where riders got to choose as far as their salary went and their bonuses, where they could get paid less, and if they place really, really well, then they got paid big bonuses.
Yep.
Well, that was
or
Dino
they could
Pro
get
Circuit.
a little bit. They could get a bit of a higher salary, but you know, you're not going to be bonusing as much. You know, so honestly, I mean, there's even like teams like that who, you know, are giving riders options for salaries and bonuses. And to be honest, I would definitely say that it's at least worth, I would say truthfully, in the least, if you are, as a team, basically transporting people's stuff, you're providing a race bike, practice bike, even I would say a smaller salary, and you know, I guess really incentivizing performance. I think that makes a big difference.
Yep.
You know, because you're really gonna be pushing guys to perform, and if you're like, hey, like if you're out there beating some factory guys, we'll give you $500 for every factory rider that you beat.
Yep.
You're going to have some guys going out there. I mean, they're going to be out for blood, but like, you know, you're going to have some guys that are going to be really, 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 you know, putting in some hard work at the test track, at the practice track, on the race day to go up and beat those guys. And truthfully, I mean, you know, as long as for the rider, I feel like if your cost to race and to train, or at least practice, is zero or as close to zero as you can get, and you're getting bonuses and maybe a small salary, I would consider that a team. I mean, you know, if you're finishing up close to top 20, then yeah, I think you know, if you're making mains, then I think that it's very reasonable to ask for a small salary, something that you can live off of.
Yeah. Like, there's no reason, I know it's not a lot, but there's no reason that any dude on the starting line for a Supercross main event or even an outdoor moto should be making less than $30,000 base salary. because that's not much.
No,
and honestly,
I would agree.
If you got to pay for your practice track to ride or whatever like that too, like that's eating into it. But 30 grand is doable in my opinion to get by.
And let me tell you why that's reasonable. So in the Florida area, obviously you're not going out to Bakers.
Yep.
If you want to go out to Rattrays, to be honest, I've heard different ranges. When I talked to him before, I believe that I think that he was at like the 30K mark, with the 25 or 30K mark for the year, and that was training, nutrition, all that, the workout routine, all that. Out at 83 compound for a year commitment, which is what you have to do, is a year commitment. It's 15 grand.
Okay.
At Moto Sandbox, if you do, I believe it's a 6-month commitment. I think that you're looking at about 9 grand, 8 or 9 grand.
Okay.
So, like, in all reality, so if you're looking at even your cheapest point being 15 grand for a year, that's literally, if you're salarying somebody 30 grand, that's already half their pay gone, man. And that's just for them to train. That's just for them to train. And if the thing with those yearly commitments, and they're pretty hardcore on it, if you get hurt, if you're not racing, that's too bad. Like you're still paying anyway.
Yep.
So it's 100%. That's 100% reasonable.
I heard back in the day before the goat farm sold, I heard that was about 24K for a year there.
Yeah, because MTF used to be between 15 and 20.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is now.
To be honest, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I had some guys that I raced against. Actually, a couple of guys that I've raced against that have been there and stayed there. I never really asked. But
yeah.
But I would say, I mean, and truthfully, that's not terrible.
Yeah.
That's not a terrible price.
I mean, when you're telling me, say, 8-9 grand for Moto Sandbox for 6 months, and they'll do it in a 6-month cycle, to me that seems all right. I mean, if you're an outdoor specialist, you're not a supercross guy, you have a great outdoor track there, you can pay the 9 grand, you have somewhere to train, you're in Florida. Yeah, to me that seems okay if that's my lot in life, to be a professional racer, to go do that. If you're doing supercross, they have 2 supercross tracks there, don't they?
Yep, 2 supercross tracks, 2 outdoor tracks, a turn track.
Yeah, so to me, that doesn't seem unreasonable. Now, Rattray with the 30K, that's a little more like, that you're trying. But I guess if you're trying to get a high-end individuals, like, okay, cool, whatever, I mean, and it just depends too. Like, I've only seen a couple videos of Rattray's place. I haven't seen a lot. Like, it's not quite as documented as, say, Moto Sandbox or something like that. So 83 compound, that seems good too. Like, that seems like an okay deal. And obviously, if you're out there, I mean, any of these places you go, if you get to ride with these top dudes, because like 83 obviously is the new spot from what I understand.
Yes,
so,
sir.
So yeah.
I mean, obviously, don't quote me on Rattrays. I mean, that's that's where that was around ballpark. I believe that's what we were initially talking about, because I went out there for the day to kind of see how it was and talk to Tyler about training out there. To me, it just ended up not being. It just wasn't the fit for me.
Yeah.
At least for that time, it just wasn't the fit for me.
Yep.
And I found a good home at Sandbox, and I mean, honestly, it worked really nicely for me. So, I was pretty happy with that. And what's interesting is, and I'll kind of equate this to you. So, if you make a Supercross night show as a 250 rider, you get $700. Period.
Yep.
Now, once you make a main event, I think you make like $740. But, big winnings, big difference.
Yeah.
But, as a 250 rider, if you race every single race, all 9 rounds, and you make every show, let's just say you're not making a main event, but you're making every show, if I'm paying for the whole Supercross season of 6 months, and obviously that, I mean, truthfully, 8-9 grand. That's still really cheap for the facility.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's definitely good. That's really good. That's really good pricing. But I'm only making $700, and that's not even covering. You know, that's $6,300 in 9 rounds.
Yeah.
That doesn't even cover my training costs.
Yep.
And that's not even, and you know, we can go down the whole spiel like we did last time, and you know that we all know it. You know, that doesn't even cover the training costs. And not everybody has a supercross track in their backyard. And if you want an actual legit one, you got to pay some cash for it.
Yep.
You know, and you know, if you're out in California and you're riding Lake Elsinore, or I mean, heck, I don't even know all the tracks that are there or not there anymore. You know, they're not cheap. So it's you know, it's very reasonable, like you're saying, to you know, if you're able to pull together those type of resources for privateers, I think that's a big thing.
Yep. Yeah, well, we're working on it, buddy.
Trying hard every day.
Listen, dude, I appreciate you. I appreciate you.